Like I have this canvas that's being painted. You ever seen those speed painters that paint that picture and everybody's trying to figure out what it is?
And it's usually upside down.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That one.
Always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, but I'm painting the picture with questions.
Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lopes-Silvero, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Zach McElwain and Roger Short. The LIA podcast takes you into the conversations of top producing life insurance agents so that you can level up your business. For episode notes and resources, and to be the first to know about new shows and announcements, visit liapodcast.org/subscribe and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. Well, welcome to today's episode. We're coming off of a great Thanksgiving break. And man, we at the LIA podcast, we are so thankful for you, our listeners. The feedback that we've gotten lately, the messages, the encouragement, man, it's meant so much to us. And we just want to pause coming off Thanksgiving and say, we appreciate you. We're so thankful for you, our listeners, and all of the kind words that you express to us on Instagram, on our show notes pages, different DMs that we've gotten. You really make this happen, and you inspire us every day. So thank you.
It's truly been a pleasure to be on this podcast. We've found the niche in this market space. The response has been overwhelming, actually. I'm surprised at the daily downloads and the unique listens that we get. I mean, it's just skyrocketing. The feedback that we're getting as a result of the content we're putting out. Sometimes we're handicapped by our own knowledge, and sometimes what we know, as Donald Miller says of a great book called Story Brand, he says what we know sometimes handicaps us when other people so desperately want to know it. But we feel honored that you've made us a part of your journey and your listening experience and your resource of a place where you can go to get real answers to real questions. And so we're grateful for that. And
as a token of our appreciation, listen to the end. Roger actually asked me a few questions, and we have a special treat for you. So definitely listen to the end. That being said, let's dive in to today's episode. We've had some agent-submitted question episodes in the past. We might be bringing those back, and that's kind of the trend for today's episode. We really want to cover this trending topic right now. Roger, why don't you share what you've been hearing a lot lately?
Well, we've been getting a lot of listener calls, like I said, through multiple platforms, but they're usually around the sales process and how to overcome objections and things that hold up a sale. Like, what do I tell people? What are you guys saying? What's the presentation you're using? Like, what are the words that I should say to get people to say yes? And Zach, I know that you've been extremely busy lately doing a lot of agent sales trainings and scheduled Zoom sessions. I know you just coming off one. You've been online all day doing live Zoom training sessions, and you've been doing live events. And I know that you've been you're addressing a lot of these common questions and themes that we get, and they're always around this idea of presentation and objections. Zach, what are you hearing from people when you're going through these presentations?
It's a lot of the same. And like you said, I finished up a Zoom call today that was from 9 to 3. So it was a very lengthy one, and just been doing them a little bit about every day. But
you are giving them breaks, right?
Somewhat.
It's just not straight 6 hours, is it?
You ever seen the movie Major Payne? It's I'm not just kidding.
Oh man, nobody's ever going to want to join one of your sessions. Good gosh, they're 6 hours.
No, not at all. But no, that was a special one. That was a special presentation training. But we really went in depth there. But it really, I'm starting to feel like a doctor of some sort, because you start to hear all these same symptoms that agents come in, and this is what I'm experiencing. These are the objections or the excuses of what I'm getting from clients of why I'm not getting a policy. This is what they're telling me. And at the real core of it, that's the symptom. And it's important for us to figure out, okay, we know this is what they're telling us. This is where the answers we're getting, but why are we getting these? How can we address these if they've already happened? How can we prevent them in the next sit from moving forward or from even coming up to begin with? So we really need to diagnose why it's happening, the problem, and come up with some techniques to prevent that from happening.
Like, Austin, the things that we hear like over and over and over again is, I went through the presentation in detail and they listened and followed along so well, but then they wanted to think about it. Or when I got to the pricing options, they said they wanted to talk it over and get back with me. Or I did a great job. I just had this conversation I think it was last Friday. I did a great job at building trust. We really connected. Like, we were talking for 30 to 45 minutes. I just couldn't get them to let me proceed with the application. Where they were so nice. These people were really nice and they really needed coverage, but they wanted to talk to their family or their son or daughter first. Like, these are the things we're hearing. And agents want to know what to say to get people to buy in. Like, they find themselves too often in this repeated cycle of addressing and attempting to overcome objections. And it's like this nauseous loop that they find themselves getting sucked into this vortex. And they feel stuck and helpless, and they don't know how to move forward, and it can be a very frustrating place. I've been there early in my career.
Roger, I'll tell you one that I've been hearing lately is, every now and then you'll hear, well, all the people I'm seeing, none of them can afford it. And the easiest thing to do is to start pointing and pointing blame on different aspects of the business or the process or anything, instead of addressing what is the real issue behind that, such as maybe they can't afford it because there's not enough value and they don't feel that it's worth it.
Value.
Yeah,
there it is.
They're coming to the doctor, and this is one of my favorite jokes. I don't know if it's a joke or not, but they go to the doctor and they touch their shoulder and they're like, doc, it hurts so bad. And they touch their knee and doc, it hurts so bad. And they touch their ankle and they're like, doc, it hurts so bad. And they're like, doc, what's going on? My whole body, it's falling apart. And the doc's like, your finger's broken. So let's dive into the root of this, guys. What's the root symptom, the root cause of these symptoms that we're seeing of people not being able to go through with the sale?
Well, when agents are asking what they should tell prospects to get a different outcome, we encourage them to not to focus on telling them anything more, because that's what they think the answer is. There's got to be something more I can say or tell them that's going to change things, right? And
all right, Roger, stop playing games. Just give them that one line that just gets them through the close. Roger has this one sentence that literally, no matter what objection he gives you, he just says it and it's automatically an app.
Telling is not selling. Is that the line? Is that the line?
No, I don't.
Only.
It's the funny. Everybody thinks there's
not
this
a secret.
line.
There's not a secret, and so there is no special sauce. That's Zach's point. And if you've heard this before, telling is not selling. Like, there's nothing that you can tell them that's going to change the temperature. Yeah, you can set the table. Yes, it's important to have presentation, build value, develop core, build trust, and the whole thing. Walk through your products, let them know how your products solve their problem and make it affordable. These are all things that are important, and they must be done in a good presentation. But telling them more is not selling them more. So there is kind of like this secret to unlocking every client.
So if the
goal
secret
here
isn't you're saying something, like what is the secret?
It's really to be proactive instead of reactive. You don't always want to be reacting to their objections or waiting for them so then you can give them this line, because that makes it more difficult, and that makes it more defensive, and that makes it a little bit more confrontational than you really want it to be. The idea is if you continue to get this pattern of these same objections, why do you seem to get this same objections? Are we missing something before that? Obviously, the client doesn't have enough information at some point in your sales process that it's causing concern, or they don't see the value, or they're obviously not on the same page as you. So we want to, get in front of that and be proactive and ask these special things. that Roger will get into.
So we're going to cue the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible music right here. I don't know how to say. I don't know how to say. You can cue it, okay? And so there is a top secret Tom Cruise Mission Impossible advice that we're going to give you. And so this is your mission should you choose to accept it, okay? This is it. The key to unlocking every sale is simple. It's 3 words: asking good questions. And there it is. Of all the things you could say or do when you're talking with a potential client, there's nothing that even comes close to the power of asking a good question. It's your single most powerful tool. It stands alone. It stands on top of every other sales tool you got in the bag and every other tactic, because asking good questions changes everything. Zach, I know you've had a ton of experience in the field, in sales. Are those 3 words important to the sales process?
It's funny you say that. Yes, absolutely. Because I feel like, I go into this puzzle of a household and it's half completed. We're missing a few pieces.
Is it a 1,500 piece or a 2,500 piece?
Both. It depends. Some houses are 10 pieces, which is very simple.
The 10-piece ones are great.
Some of them are 10,000. But you really just take it apart, ask them questions, and they put it back together themselves. And that's the magic of it. Nobody wants to be told what to do. I don't know what it is. I don't know if everybody just grew up tough or something. Everybody's dad spanked them too much or something. I don't know if I could say that on this air, but when you
scolded them too much. You were scolded, young man.
Right, but nobody wants to be told what to do. Everybody wants to buy. Nobody wants to be sold. The only reason they don't buy is because they don't have enough information. But everything they want is right there. They want to buy. And all we have to do is ask them really good questions to figure out why they want to buy, why it's important to them, what's in their way, how can they remove it. And literally, you just take that puzzle apart and lay the pieces out, and all of a sudden, they start to put it together right in front of your eyes, and you never have to tell them anything. And it's actually quite amazing. You're like a therapist and a problem solver and an engineer and a mechanic all in one. It's really cool. And I didn't always do it this way, and I didn't really figure this out when I was brand new, but it's so easy to just ask questions.
I mean, therapists get paid big bucks for sitting and just asking one question after another in a very conversational tone, and the people solve their own problems because they realize they're, talking to somebody who's listening and just leading the conversation. That's really all it's about. There was a book written that I read a long time ago called Question Your Way to Sales Success. It was written by David Cale. We're going to recommend it. Maybe we can even put a link or something to it. Now, he was What's that? Yeah. He was primarily in the B2B space, so business to business, not as much, business to a client like we're serving here. But he talks about in that book gaining the competitive edge and making every answer count. So asking good questions and then using the answers as the ammunition or the formula for solving the client's problem. And he breaks down the importance of good questions and how to strategically ask your way to success. So our listeners should buy that book. They should invest in learning about this art and master it. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already searching for information, so we know that. Go search a little bit more, invest a little bit, spend a little money. And he references a scene in that book from the famous movie City Slickers. And I might be dating myself right now for some of our younger listeners, but there's Billy Crystal in this movie, City Slickers. He plays his character. His name is Mitch, and he's going through this midlife crisis. Like, he's not in a good marriage. His wife is telling him to get out, and he's disillusioned with his career. And so they decide to go out to the Southwest to clear their head and deal with some stuff and get on with life. And Billy Crystal, his character, he's riding alongside this lead cowboy, and they're driving a herd of cattle from New Mexico to Colorado over a period of days and weeks. And after a long time, and Curly is this old guy with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth with the kerchief around his neck and the cowboy hat. And he looks at Curly and he says, "You've really got your life figured out, Curly. You keep it simple." He said, "What's your success? What's the secret to your success?" And Curly's got these black gloves on. He raises one hand and he's pointing in the air. One. He goes, "What? Yourself?" He goes, "No, one thing." He goes, "What does that mean?" He goes, "One thing. Do one thing really well, and you'll be happy. Focus on one thing." So in sales, if you focused your attention and got really good at asking good questions, it will unlock opportunity in every home, and it will skyrocket your sales and your response and your results.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into these important reasons that asking good questions are going to change our listeners' sales career. What's that first thing that it's going to affect, or why it's so important?
Why do you think it's important, Austin? Nah, just kidding.
There was a good question coming back.
Yeah. No, it's really the primary tool for us to gather information about our clients and their personal life, and to really get to know them. I mean, that's the first and foremost, building trust. You can't build trust by telling them how good you were at riding a unicycle, or how well you could swim back in high school, or how far you can drive a golf ball. They don't want to hear about us.
See, when Zach says drive a golf ball, I literally drive the golf ball in the cart. It's a little different than this game Roger plays with. All right, back to the show.
I agree with Zach. I mean, if it's so important to gather that personal information, that detailed information that you can't find out any other way, because when we do, we start to understand the things and the people that are important to them. And without that information, it's really difficult to help them at all, because now you're just selling something, you're just pitching something, you're not helping solve a problem.
Yeah, and I would say the magic of this, especially learning about the client, and this is that kind of initial phase and getting to know them and gathering details. The follow-up questions are way more important than the initial questions, because when you ask follow-up questions to your client, it shows that you care. It shows that you're interested, and you want to learn about them. You want to develop that connection. Anytime somebody just asks you one question and then doesn't really care about the response, or is already thinking about the next question to ask, it's not genuine. It doesn't connect with anybody.
Mm-hmm. And that really leads us into what I think is the second, most important reason why good questions need to be the foundation of your selling career, and that it's really a powerful way to enhance the relationship and build trust. We talk about it, right? It's one of the 5 real reasons why people don't buy is no trust. And like Zach said, that second follow-up question, the third, it's really a series of good conversational questions that shows your intention and shows your interest. And that leads to more open and personal conversations. And like the onion starts to get peeled back, right? The outer crusty layers, the stuff that's all flaking off is on the outside. But you start to peel that back, and you start getting into that juicy, rich part of the onion in there. And that's where the source is. That's where you need to get to. So it's really the only way that you can get to relationship and trust.
Yeah, this definitely sounds pretty familiar. I feel like we've covered trust and questions so many times on the podcast, but I mean it's truly the core to what we do. It's such a cornerstone of this. So if it sounds repetitive, good, right? That means you're investing in yourself, but just getting that into your brain. The more you hear it and the more you do it, the better you'll get. All right, what's the next important thing that good questions does for our listeners?
Good questions really allow us to really dive into our clients as far as, helping them paint a picture of maybe a need that they didn't know was there initially. And what I mean by that is they may have, some agents run leads, right? Some agents or purchase leads. And typically on those leads, they're looking for information on final expenses. But as asking good questions, you're able to be in the home and really dive deep into figuring out there's more need than that, than just the apparent or the surface level of burial coverage. And this is probably the one I spend the most time on when we're really diving in particularly in our final expense presentation, because the client initially is looking for burial coverage, but asking good questions, not just regular questions, asking really good questions at this point starts to paint that picture that there's so much more there. And I can give you some examples of that. when we're diving in and trying to figure out maybe some of the reasons of why they might have filled out the card. And, we may simply say, you might have filled it out because you don't have any coverage or burial plan in place and you're worried about leaving a financial burden on your family. My initial question there is going to be, well, why is that important to you? Now, anybody's natural response to that is going to be, well, I don't want to leave that burden on my family, which is okay. And I think a lot of agents would take that and run with it. But my follow-up question to that is almost identical, because I can ask the same question in a slightly different way and get a drastically different response. And so I'll say, Mr. Austin, why does that really matter to you? And by asking that same, why is it important? Why does it really matter? He's going to tell me the same answer, but it's going to be more emotional. It's going to be more in depth. Well, I just really wouldn't want to leave them on there. I don't know what they would do if I didn't have that, and which is also great. But I'm going much further than that. This is a massive onion, right? This is one of them big puzzles. So at this point, I'm saying, so if you didn't have anything in place, Mr. Austin, who would be the one that this would impact the most? And at the same time, like, I'm asking him, I'm looking at him, I'm lowering my voice. He's thinking, because again, he filled out the card and he's thinking, I need something for burial cremation. He's not thinking, oh, wow, like this is deep. So he may respond with that saying, well, it would probably impact my wife more than anybody, or my daughter. And, if you didn't have that in place, Mr. Austin, how would they come up with the money in order to pay for that? My follow-up question to that is, would they have to borrow money from family or friends? Would they have to get a bank loan? How hard would that be for them to, one, ask, and for two, to, if your family and friends were able to help pay for that? And I'm asking these questions like I'm curious, but I'm also concerned. And what that's going to do is it's going to continue to paint that picture. And in my mind right now, I'm a very visual person. Like, I have this canvas that's being painted. You ever seen those speed painters that paint that picture and everybody's trying to figure out what it is?
And it's usually upside down.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That one.
Always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, but I'm painting the picture with questions. And this picture of his family is being created right before his eyes, and he's thinking about it. Oh, I've never thought about how it's going to impact my kids' or my grandkids and their opportunities, and then you follow up with, how would that make you feel? And you just let that sit in there. And so particular at this point, in our step 3 of this, is really peeling back those layers and getting that insight. It allows the client to realize that there's a whole lot more to this need than they thought they would, or this value they thought they would.
Yeah, this step 3, when we talk about, our goal in this podcast is to help you, our listeners, be highly impactful, but also highly profitable difference makers. Like, that's where this step 3 really comes into play, because surface level, you might just be covering them or their family with a low amount benefit, but it's not solving all of their needs, right? They might have more than just the final expense that they're trying to cover. So the impact is lower if you're not going past surface level, but also you as an agent, your profit is also lower. So this asking good questions, going beyond the surface level, that's where you really see, how do I get higher premium? That's a huge question we see all the time is, how do I get bigger abs or higher premium, or help my clients to be okay with more coverage? This is where that's happening.
Yeah, I will say this, that most people coming into the industry, or if you feel like you're in a rut, or if you feel like you're in a little bit of a slump, and it might not even be a sales slump, like you may realize I'm not getting in front of as many people, and then when I am, I don't have the same closing ratio, something is off, or you're getting started and you're new and you're trying to get traction, and like I said at the outset, you think it's something that you're not saying. It's really something that you're not asking. And so too many agents live there on that surface level. Like when we talk about establishing trust and using CORE, children, occupation, recreation, emotion, that acronym to walk you through that, it's kind of a guideline. But then a lot of people use that as a crutch, and they're like, so tell me about your kids. Okay, tell me what you did for a living. Okay, tell me what your hobby is. You like hunting. It's hunting season. Let's talk about hunting. Hey, I got a deer this and next. So why'd you fill out the card? And boom, 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 boom. And they're kind of like checking off a list. That's really not asking those good questions and then following up with another good question and going deeper and deeper. It's like you got to picture it like the movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like you're going to another level, and then when you get there, you can go to another level, and it gets deeper and deeper, and you really unlock the secret to what's in the guy's head about what his father wanted him to do with his life, right? And
Keep going until you hear the music.
That's right. That's right. And then the kick, it's coming. And then we come all the way back up. And so like good questions do this. The best salespeople ask the best questions. The top producers ask the best questions. And I will say this. Sometimes you'll have a top producer that's just out there running and gunning and what we call is slinging insurance. Okay? And they're just firing. And they want to be on the top of the leaderboard. But I will tell you, if they're not invested in their craft and asking good questions and meeting the real client's need, their placement and persistency won't be anywhere near someone who does a great job in this area. And placement and persistency is how much business gets put in force and how much stays in force because they understand the true value. Zach talked about it a little bit earlier about perceived value and understood value and what that does to a client and wanting to move forward or give you an objection. So this is asking good questions allows you to go deeper and uncover things that were not really covered in those initial surface level questions. I think the next important reason why good questions have such a strong impact is that they create the perception of competence and confidence with your client. Zach, what does confidence and competence mean, and how does it tie to asking good questions?
Well, I don't think it creates the perception. I think you automatically have it because you're now at a stage in your career that you understand the value of these questions and the impact it makes in your clients. So you have confidence in your ability based upon the questions that you're asking. So it's actually kind of like a magic trick, really. And because simply, it's just like you said earlier, Roger, if you have a counselor, what credibility do they have besides a couple degrees, which we have our insurance license, and asking questions? Because you're literally solving all your own problems, and it's great. I mean, I love counselors. They are amazing and they're professional, but they break it down.
You just realized you didn't want to hate on the counselors right there in that last sentence, and you backed up.
Hey, trust me. I'm not.
They are important.
I'm not hating on the counselors because that's exactly what we do. We just do it for clients that are looking for insurance. Mm-hmm. We are counselors. Like we literally get to know people. So do they. We literally hear them out. What's going on? What is their need? If it's protecting their family or if it's dealing with a family issue. And all we're doing is asking questions on what's the best way to do that. And it ends up unfolding in the same way. But I don't know what it is, but when you're just relaxed and you're confident and you're just asking questions because you've done this same sit or this same scenario in this home 1,000 times, it just creates this energy and this presence about you, which is powerful. And your clients and your confidence, they simply just listen and they process the questions you're asking differently to solve those issues.
You made me think about one of my friends who's in the industry, and if he's listening to this podcast today, we're going to give him a shout out. Bruce Barak with Foresters. Bruce did a conference with us one time and looked into the audience and pointed at one of the agents, and he says, "You are a powerful person." And it stood out to me, man. It just resonated because he said, you have the most powerful tools in your hand and you get to sit with people and help them take care of their financial future. So know that, remember it, you are a powerful person. And I would say that so if you're brand new, you're just stumbling your way into the business, or you're in for a year or 2 years, you're trying to get traction, you're trying to improve your game, whatever your scenario is, asking a series of good questions that you can predetermine. Like you can practice and write down good questions and then sequence them to go deeper. And by doing that, regardless of your level of experience or time in, it does create confidence in the client that you've been there before. Like you're comfortable with these line of questions. And when you do that, it actually creates this reciprocal comfort from the client. And they're like, you know what? He's comfortable with talking about this. I'm going to open up and tell them the important things to me so that so that they can actually help me solve this problem, because they have this, like you said, this aura, this power, this comfort level with going deeper with me.
And you get the confidence because you're asking questions that they never thought about before. So you're opening up their mind, and they respect that, and you get credibility from that.
My favorite part about what you said, Zach, was just the magic that happens, that asking questions is what breeds the confidence. I think a lot of agents think the telling breeds the confidence that, they know I know what I'm doing because I'm telling them all these things. But you're kind of flipping that on the head to say the questions, you asking the questions and not telling them how it is, that's where the magic is. That's where the secret is in the questions for the confidence and the competence.
You're exactly right, because they want to, I don't know if it's a pride thing or an ego thing, or they want to just kind of flex their insurance knowledge. But you have to remember, everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. I say that all the time because it keeps me in check, and it helps me remind me that I'm not going to go into any home. Nobody's good enough to go into any home and just start saying, you need this. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to have. This is the type of plan you want. This is the company you want. We're getting you qualified. Like, yeah, you might scare to somebody to death into signing up for a few policies, but it's not going to work that way. Because everybody,
or over time, back to the persistency and the placement.
Right. You'll become far more successful if you let people make their own decisions. You just need to know what questions to ask so they think about the right things so they can make their own decisions. And it's
funny if you're ever in a room with several people and they're all kind of chiming in and they all kind of want to like position themselves with knowledge, and everybody's trying to jockey for position, and these people don't know each other. Usually the person who asks the best questions instead of telling what they know gets everyone's attention, because it's like, that guy's so quietly confident. He's just asking these laser questions that's making everybody else think and about the real reason why we're here. And there's power in that. There's power in that. Instead of telling's not selling. The best salespeople have the best questions. Remember that. I think the next biggest reason why asking good questions is so important, and Zach, this is where you live in your training, because I know we've done whole segments on this. We've done conferences and boot camps and workshops about uncovering the real need. And when you ask really good questions in series and go deeper, it allows you to uncover the biggest and most important concerns of your client. This is where Zach McElwain lives. If you want to know how to do this, you need to reach out to us, get on his calendar, get something set up. There's money and gold in the stuff where he lives here. Zach, can you talk about that and about finding the real need?
Yeah, I mean, finding the real need it's an art form, just like it seems like everything else is. But it all stems from asking good questions. Because we have our perceived need as we walk into the home as agents. If you have experience, you understand, okay, they filled out the card for burial insurance or final expense insurance or mortgage protection insurance. It's a very specific need. So the scope is very narrow. But that may not be what the client needs. We understand, we study the market, we study the demographic. We have a full... it's almost like what do you call it when you're doing crime scene investigation or
forensics?
Yeah, well, almost. It starts with a P, I think. Profile, exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
We have this profile of a client, so we know that every client's different in their own way. But we all know.
All I was picturing was Horatio taking off his sunglasses the whole time when he was searching for the word profile. I was picturing Horatio taking off his sunglasses one more time.
He's pretty smooth at that for sure. But we know, like, every client is different, but we still know that these clients have the same income range. They've grew up in the same types of towns. They work the same types of jobs. They have they all have families. A lot of them multi-generation, living together in the same home. They all have very similar health issues, the similar medications, and they live in the similar markets, similar types of homes, similar situations. So us as being good agents and really putting our feet in their shoes and studying our market, we know the similar needs that are generally there. So asking good questions allows us to understand the levels to need, allows us to understand that there's burial, there's medical bills, there's debts, there's mortgage, there's loss of income, which is a huge one. There's all these different levels of needs that we move through, but we can't be blind to the fact of some of these other ones that pop up that we have to be aware of. And for example, I was sitting with a young lady in her 60s, early 60s, and she was living in a government subsidized apartment building. So it's one of the ones that's like all center blocks, and it's like two of them, and it's split in half. So you get one family on one side and another family on another. And I went to sit with her and just talk to her and listen to her, and I was doing my thing. And one thing that I noticed is she had two grandkids there, and one of them had some really bad anger issues and behavioral issues. And as I started diving in and focusing it on her situation, I was like, man, she's got her hands full. She's really dealing with a lot here, and it's just her, And I was like, does anybody else help you, or what's going on? And my attention went to focus on her and what's really connecting on what stresses her out a lot in her life and what does she struggle with. And it turns out that these two kids' parents, which is her daughter, got caught up in some drugs and left the kids and didn't have anything to do with them. And this client of mine, or this client of mine now, was sitting there, and she was going through, and I just kept asking questions, and I was consoling her, and because this was really upsetting to her. And I can obviously see some of the behavior issues while I was in the home, and she really didn't know what to do or who to trust because she's kind of all on her own. And she had a current plan that some guy just stopped by and kind of told her some weird things that it was working for some car insurance company, and went in and said that, I don't really know what he said, but basically switched her insurance and said it was a mandatory thing over to this other plan that was very expensive for her. And so she was very kind of skeptical as well. And you could tell she was dealing with a lot. But I just continued to just focus on her, ask really good questions. And I found out that she has custody of these two kids. And wow. When, she's in her 60s and she has health problems of her own, and she's dealing with a kid that's 3 and a kid that's, I think, 10 or 11, that's a big boy with, some behavioral issues. And as just trying to figure out the true need, I was able to find that one of our plans, again, Forrester's offers an Orphan Benefit that was able to come in and talk about price and value. This Orphan Benefit was going to allow her that if anything was to happen to her, as such as passing away, obviously it would pay a death benefit for her policy. But in addition to that, since she had custody of these kids, that it would pay $900 a month until they reach the age of 18 in order to take care of these kids above and beyond the death benefit. And so that's one example of just asking good questions and getting the full story and finding the different needs in the home. Yeah, the need was final expense. And yeah, she had a policy she just recently got, so she was trying to shoo me away initially. And once we were able to get in and connect and build core, and I felt like all I did that whole sit was ask questions. And she was so thankful, and we were able to find something that fit her family and her needs much better.
That's awesome.
When you uncover these real needs, like Zach was just addressing, it raises your value as a service provider, as an advisor. And it also raises the value of your product and service immensely. So price, remember this, price is rarely an objection where there is high value and need. It's rarely an objection where there is high value and need. It's always an objection when there is little perceived value. You could have some gold, and if you're trying to give it to people and they think you're trying to pull one over on them, like they won't pay, they won't give you a dime. You can't give it to them. Like you can't give it away because they think something's up because they have no value in what you're doing. And so when you hit that root need, the big need in the family, value goes way up. People will find a way to have that and own it. I mean, they'll finance it. Well, we see these things. We see families spending more at Christmas because they want to give their kids a good Christmas, and so they put it on credit cards because it's important to them that their kids have a good Christmas. Or they'll spend money on gifts for someone else because of the value they have in that relationship, and yet they don't have enough money to cover their own bills. So when the value is there, people will invest in it. And what you're doing as an agent, remember, you're providing tremendous value for that family for the worst time when that person's no longer going to be able to be there to take care of it themselves. You're helping them now put a plan in place to take care of them and show their love when they're gone. And so your value goes way up when you uncover that real one. It's huge.
You know when you're asking good questions, and I believe this. Whenever you're in the home asking good questions, the client will tell you exactly what they need and how much they need. They will tell you. It will spill out by just asking good questions. You should never go into a home and just start pricing out a policy and you're scratching your head. Why am I pricing out this much? What is it going to do? What is it going to take care of? Who's it going to take care of? Why this amount? You know, it's got to make sense for them. And if you ever find yourself price quoting a policies or getting ready to show 3 plans and you don't really know what that's going to cover or how much of their need it's going to cover, then you may be guilty of not finding the true need or asking good enough questions to see who this is going to impact. How would they want them to spend the money? You know, what are the issues if they don't have them? And we talk about this a lot recently, Roger, especially from the story brand that we've been going through, is really what's at stake. What happens if they do have something in place? What would happen if they don't have something in place? And think beyond burial. Think about the income, because it's great. An agent may feel awesome that they wrote a burial plan for $10,000 for a couple to protect one of them, and it is posting on their team's website. I got to sell. Everybody's celebrating it, which is amazing because you did help out the family. But did you cover their true need? Because you may realize that, yes, there's not going to be a burden financially for the burial that's going to be left. But due to Social Security and income, one of them is going to lose their Social Security, and now they're not going to have enough money to maintain the mortgage on the house, and they're actually going to be homeless or move in with another family member and have to all compile in there together right after they lost somebody.
Yeah, the importance of these questions and uncovering the concerns and the need of the client. I mean, it's everything to what we do. It's so important.
So there's one more thing, and we can probably finish and rally around this one. Good questions. Another reason why these are so important to ask good questions is they're the primary tool for gaining agreement from your client. I mean, a question is really a tie down, isn't it?
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Oh, you see what I did there?
That was nice.
Right? And so they also allow you to clarify discussions, because if something is going on and they're telling you a story you don't really understand, like just ask more questions about that and it'll become clear, and you can clarify what the direction they're going in to talk about the importance about of the need that they have. Or they also allow you to confirm agreement of the solution. Like, if we can find something that's affordable to you, I can see why it's important that you take care of this for you and your wife. If we can find something that's affordable to you, Mr. Smith, I'm assuming you do want to go ahead and apply for that to see if we can get you covered, right? So these are questions also. So it's not just the probing deep questions to take deep, but it's also important to ask good questions to confirm and tie down. And we've done a whole podcast and series on that too. Questions and transitions and tie downs. I mean, we've covered these things, but if you as a sales rep, I don't care what service you're in, you could be selling, if they still sell photocopiers, Xerox machines to businesses, I'm assuming they probably do. I don't know who sells them anymore, but they used to be huge one time, and you get door-to-door salespeople selling stuff in homes, and then you get, business to business sales for tech packages and, software solutions, regardless of what it is. Asking the best questions will yield to the best results, and the best salespeople always have the best questions, and they provide this key to a way to meet the need and to move forward and get the job done. Questions are the secret to unlocking every sale.
Hey, Austin, you're a good student, right?
Depends who you ask.
Okay. Well, this may or may not apply to you, but did you ever get called on in school when you're in class and you were daydreaming or I don't know, thinking about building websites or something, and a teacher calls on you to answer a question and you have no idea what they're talking about? Did that ever happen to you?
So I don't know if this is the best question for me. I was a kid that could doze off in class, and then the teacher would ask me a question, or did you even hear anything I just said, or were you just sleeping? And I could repeat verbatim everything they just said. So
well,
yes and no. Yes and no.
You'll make a perfect husband. But anyways, this happened to me at some point in time where sometimes I had really good grades in high school. I slept in probably every single class. But every now and then I would get called on and not know what the heck's going on because I would just zone out. I'm not sleeping. I'm just sitting there just zoned out sometimes. And one thing for sure, because I know a lot of people can probably relate to this, after that happens to you, you are super alert for at least the next 20 to 35 minutes, right? You're ready for the teacher to call on you again so you can redeem yourself from that embarrassment. And so the reason I tell you this is because in my presentation, if you guys knew how many questions I asked, you probably would all be sick. Because throughout my presentation, on every page, I'm asking questions left and right. And for multiple reasons. For one, it gives me confidence. For two, it allows me to continue to dig. For three, it really allows me to maintain control of the sit. It allows me to continue my tie downs. But it allows my client to be engaged. Like my client is probably talking as much as I am in my presentation. Like they're probably at least 50% of it is their words. And it's because I'm always asking and I'm clarifying. Like, for example, Mr. Roger, how much do you know about, have you ever heard of term before? And be like, yes or no. And I'm like, okay, tell me what you know about it. So I'm kind of checking his knowledge, which also gives me that credibility to keep going. And by doing that, it keeps them alert and it keeps them on task. It keeps them focused, but it keeps them learning as well, all throughout the presentation. And we're talking about questions today, and there is no question that asking questions is the best thing you can do in the sales process.
No question about it.
No question about it.
No question.
It makes it a conversation. The client never feels like they're being sold. It never feels like there's any pressure because it's a constant teaching. We're just having a natural conversation, and it becomes so smooth because we're literally both talking and checking and teaching the entire presentation together. We're doing it together. Like I said, the client's doing 50% of the presentation for me because I'm just asking them questions and we're moving on from there. So I knew I wanted to add that in there because that's probably the secret sauce in my presentation, as well as in the core building phase, as well as closing at the end. It's constant questions.
That's awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. As we wrap today, if you as a listener have questions, ask us. Let us know what your questions are. We are happy to answer them. And as you enter the field today, or as you start talking to clients over the phone, wherever you're at in your business, make sure to ask these questions. It is so important. And then let us know how it goes. We want to hear how you were able to apply what you learned today. You can contact us at liapodcast.org/EP45 or on any of our social media platforms. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're on all of them. Just shoot us a message, shoot us a DM, and we'll get back to you. And we want to hear your story. Our social media is Life Insure Acad, or if you just search Life Insurance Academy, will pop up for you. So,
guys, I want to jump in here with a very special offer for our listeners. This is our first episode following Thanksgiving, so this is our Cyber Week offer. Are you tired of wasting time and money trying to figure out a way to be profitable in this industry of insurance sales? You hear about other people having great success, but it's just not happening for you. It doesn't have to be this way. At Life Insurance Academy, we've taught thousands of agents a simplified and proven sales system that eliminates the frustration of failure and creates success and profitability. Life Insurance Academy is a digital platform offering on-demand courses to help you be massively successful in insurance sales. And so for Cyber Week only, we're offering a 1-year access to the Final Expense Life Insurance Sales course for just $297. You get immediate access to 19 self-paced video training modules, including appointment setting, door knocking secrets, final expense presentation, pricing strategies, the closing checklist, mastering tie downs, and many, many more. So stop wasting time and money trying to figure this out on your own. You can get access now. That's over 40% off for this week only at $297. It's as simple as this. Learn a proven system, write more business, make more money. Get access now. This offer ends Tuesday, December 8th at midnight. Get access now.
oh man, awesome. Well, we will catch you on our social media or on our website. Make sure to subscribe. I think there's actually even a spot on the subscribe if you do have a question to put that in there. But we're here for you, and we'll catch you on another episode. As always, thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate us 5 stars, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. Life Insurance Academy podcast is hosted, edited, and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Valero. This episode was produced by Roger Short. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. We'll catch you on another episode. Until then, stay safe and go be a difference maker.